Now, these true and fake aspects of both sides, they're like different octaves of the same music. They come from the same philosophical base, but express totally contradictorily, from real beginnings to utterly fake manifestations. And the proof of the pudding that these true left and right actually have more in common with each other, and the fake have more in common between the left and right than between the true and the fake of the same sides, if you understand what I'm saying, is that at the end of both spectrums, like the far end of a circle, rightist fascism and leftist totalitarianism meet in the gutter as tyranny. Exactly what is unfolding right now. So you can't really begin to see how all this works until you can become, sadly, cynical enough to realize that the whole thing at the level of institution is a smokescreen run by fallen men. That's the position all these selfish megalomaniacs have put us in. And to just fall into binary thinking, only being able to argue and think between fake A and fake B, because that's what they're sponsoring, beyond being forced to have zero power but to vote one way or the other, is the exact trap they in their limitless, ill-gotten power have laid for us. Now, what I was describing before is the philosophy of the fake right, with the you kick the poor to the curb, it's all about me and my rights to make endless amounts of money and whatever, you sink or swim. That is actually the stated between the lines philosophy of most right-wing parties in the world, for the 1% top end of town, and it has been the most dominant force of politics worldwide for the last 30-40 years. And so the left is rightly concerned at anything, even the true bits coming from the alt-right right now, on the pandemic, for instance, whose net result may be to give another vote to this institution because it's already dragged us to within an inch of our destruction. As Noam Chomsky, perhaps the most celebrated intellectual of the 20th century, said, the Republican Party in the US is the most dangerous institution in history because its clear intent is the end of organized civilization on this planet. And at heart, whether or not they're being called left or not, all our oligarchs orchestrating and paying for these coups are really the current cardboard kings of this fake right. So what I'm saying is the real answer is not to buy into this endless bickering between fake left and fake right, but to sponsor going back to the true parts of both. All the core bits that have gotten lost and buried on purpose, that if you're committed to personal evolution rather than shallow ambition, you don't lose sight of. And that's called real growing up. It's the opposite of what we're told it is, actually, when we're supposed to just become pragmatic survivors. It's growing up as individuals and societies, and it is a big part of what we are here for. And the point I've been making is that if we don't even know what it is, or what the difference is, then we can't demand our so-called representatives stand for it and stop turning it into what it is now. So, on balance, rather than just jumping from left to right as many of my friends have done, I'm quite convinced the pandemic is a scam because it is riddled with holes, and many of which have been aggressively suppressed. But though newly suspicious and with an open mind for the future, I'm also far from convinced about a lot of alt-right views on climate change, Black Lives Matter, Hollywood pedophiles, and the whole range of other stuff that's being lumped in, half the time just as a smokescreen, that to me, in this exact moment, though important for sure, only muddies the issue and alienates people, addled by the rapid envelopment in deception and stress, who can barely cope with this for now. It all seems suspiciously tailored to end up voting a certain way, especially given that it revolves around Trump as savior versus villain, when he is one of the most polarizing figures ever. If it's even actually meant to be constructive, it seems to me a really dumb and transparently political card to play right now, when so much is already at stake in this totalitarian coup. It's too big and it's too political. So sadly, it seems to me just a new brand of more of the same. In fact, what seems to escape this new breed of far-right hippies, now I've seen everything, is that this obfuscation of the truth is how the game works on every level. So their unlikely recruitment to waving Trump's flag may well be part of it. A vote from a new demographic that can tip a tight election? I wonder. So sadly, on balance, I have to conclude that whatever truths have come out through them, that the true and alt-right Q people may well just be being played just as badly as the Rust Belt was in the last election. But hey, although I have a mountain of experience watching all the deceptive games to back up that viewpoint, I admit I could be wrong. So, who now is best to take power in America is an ugly choice. It's more confusing than it ever has been, I grant you. But the narrative that there's no difference at all between left and right to me has always been wrong. Though the leaders on both sides may always have been mostly chosen puppets for the oligarchy, the moderate, less corrupted left has tended to deliver a more humane society and at least a slower march to destruction of planet and morality. So far, at least. Because for the first time, even I'm almost as scared of the left as the right. In 2 states of Australia, for instance, we now have left politicians acting like right-wing dictators, giving the opportunity to the ones on the right to pretend that they're different, when of course they're not, but people still seem to somehow believe them. It's just sad to see them all falling to their lowest octave. We badly need a true alternative.